It's never late to be elated. I'm Alina, and today I want to share with you the real state of affairs regarding changes in the defense system and hero points in the upcoming patch 10.04 update 42, which will launch on June 3rd. Judging by the number of 5 people are ready to believe the results of calculation what were made by a person who just want to hype. Well, or who doesn't know the basics of the game. Defense that affects the damage you deal? What? So let's get down to the business. If you open the patch note, you will see clearly states a number of sources of protection added a higher percentage of damage reduction than what established by the game balance, rather than acting a multiplier of this percentage of damage reduction, and these same sources are listed below. Still not clear? Then let's take it in on. How the protection actually works. The character's general defense works on the principle of hyperbole, that it stands to 100% but never reaches this value, since every time we use different sources of protection, such as major and minor defense buffs or resistance, we subtract a certain percentage from the remaining damage reserve after previous cuts. Essentially, we multiply percentages. I'll give you an example, take out some pieces of paper and count on yourself if you don't believe me. The player's base defense is 10%. With it, we are left 90% vulnerability, that is, without any other sources of protection, we receive 90% damage coming to us. The game has physical and magical resistance, as well as protection reserved from armor. The maximum figure is 33,000. In PvP, it makes sense to exceed it, since by exceeding the resist cap, you will still have the same 50% of defense, but when you receive damage from player, his penetration value is subtracted from your defense value. Therefore, if you have 36,000 of defense and the enemy has 3,000 of penetration, his penetration will be cancelled. 606 armor points gives us 1%. That it having a resistance cap, we will reduce the remaining 90% of upcoming damage by 50%. We get 45% and our protection will be equal to 55%. Also in PvP, all players have a permanent buff Battle Spirit, which reduces your incoming damage by 55%, and therefore in PvP zone and in duels your defense will not be 55% but 75.25%, while your vulnerability will be 24.75%. Major and minor defense, which reduce incoming damage by 10 and 5%, respectively, stack with each other but do not stack with anything else. Therefore, when we add major and minor protection, we will immediately have a 15% reduction. 15 of the remaining 35% is 6.75%. That it, now our defense is 61.75%. and incoming damage is 38.25%. Thus, in PvP mode, with a claimant block and using all possible sources of protection, we can reach values of over 95%. It is very important that relative changes in defense shall be considered precisely by the number of your incoming damage, your vulnerability. The difference between 98 and 99% is actually twofold. Losing 1% protection by 50% increases your vulnerability by 5%, and losing 1% by 99% increases your vulnerability by 100%. Therefore, each next percentage in the total defense is more valuable than previous one, but each next percentage in the total defense is obtained with much more difficulty. Therefore, balance is important in builds, and not persistent use of only the defensive or only the offensive potential of the class. For builds, come to us, we will help, complain, explain and teach. We at Elite Alliance are for a comfortable game and not for a spectacular explosion of your power causing less damage than a nose of mosquito. Now to the patch note itself in more detail. What did those actually fix it? The problem was that there is a bug in certain categories, particularly hero point starts and light and heavy armor bonuses. Since the mechanics of armor percentage bonuses and new champion points are relatively recent. The ZOS stated that with this mechanic, at least for now, 100% defense was achievable, and they definitely don't like that. This means that to earn 95% of protection in the block, apparently specialized protection such as heavy armor passive to reduce physical damage is added not to 5% of 5 parts from the remaining 5% of vulnerability, but to 5% of protection in general. That is, there is a simple addition of 95% plus 5% instead of subtracting a percentage from the remaining vulnerability. Although it's clear that for a value of 100% you need to dress in protection and direct all the character resources to reduce damage in order to gain invulnerability to only one specific type of damage, this is a really broken mechanic, even despite all the conventions. What will change after fixing the error? Nothing really. The rest of buffs will still work, but not everyone uses the stars and the hero points of defense in the blue branch. In addition, along with the strong bonuses of protection from light and heavy armor, penalties that were probably bugged in the same way will also go away. Thanks everyone for watching, be careful, study the game mechanics from the very beginning so as to not succumb to a wave of panic. It's never late to be elated. Bye!